What is going on, everybody? Happy Saturday, and welcome back to another episode of Comic Collector Origins. I think I'm on 53 now, which has been awesome. I know I had the past couple weeks off, moving some things around in the schedule, but we are back. Really excited to continue this series. If you guys are new, make sure you sub up to the channel. I really do appreciate that. I just crossed 900 not too long ago, so I'm going to be doing a giveaway for that soon, so keep an eye out for that. I'm really excited to get to that 1K, just continuing that road to 1K. So I appreciate everybody who has supported me, supported the channel. And yeah, so we're going to get into this. Again, smash that like button if you haven't already. If you're watching the replay, thanks so much for taking the time to watch. Comic Collector Origins, if you don't know, it is all about the community. It's where I bring on members from the community and interview them, ask them questions about how they first started, where this hobby landed for them. When did they first get into it? How old they were? What was their surrounding? And, talking about like experiences at Comic-Cons for the first time and LCSs for the first time. And things like that. So it's just a fun way to get to know some of the community members. I've had so many great guests on here, and so many more will be on here as well. Made just so many great friends, and I hope you have all too along the way. So I see we have some people in the chat already. Before we get into the chat, I will introduce my guest. He's a guy I feel like I've known him for. Oh man, definitely since like since before the pandemic. I feel like, this guy had commercials. I remember at one point with the Comic Core and some other interesting things. I also had the opportunity to hang out with this dude a couple times over on JP Collects channel as we talked about one of our favorites, Descender. They got one of the hardcovers here. I figured this was a great opportunity for me to show off my hardcovers of Descender. If you guys don't follow him, you really should. He's got a lot of energy. He has a ton of content over on his YouTube channel, and he's just all about the community. I think he brings the community together in a really nice way. So give it up for my man, Andy, aka ComicManAndy. Andy, what's going on, brother? Oh,
see, I'm a total noob this morning, but what's good, everybody? We are sipping on some coffee, still waking up, relaxing this morning, and I forgot all about those Comic Core commercials.
Right? Dude, that's where I first remember seeing you, was on those. And again, that was like right at the very beginning of the pandemic. I'm working from home, and I remember like just checking out YouTube and just finding more channels and like seeing you come up there, and I'm like, who's this guy? Like, and diving into that. So
it's been a solid 2 years that we've kind of been bouncing around, hanging out together on and off some other shows.
Yep.
And it's funny how it ebbs and flows, but it's been a solid 2 years.
Yeah, for sure, man. And the time flies. The time really flies. I feel like, like I was mentioning JP's channel, hanging out over there with you, hanging out with John's Comics with Kids, breaking down some great reads along the way. And, it's just been a lot of fun. So, Andy, I do appreciate you taking some time to be here with me today. I know we've scheduled this for a while now. We've had this lined up for a while, so I'm glad we were able to work this out.
It took us almost 6 months to knock down a Saturday where our schedules lined up.
Hey man, we made it work, man. We made it work. Hey, and anybody watching right now, or if you are catching the replay, I put all of Andy's information in the description below, so you can find his Instagram channel as well as his YouTube channel. Make sure you sub up to that if you are not already. Andy, before we get into the fun, let's just say a quick hello to the chat here. I saw my man Roscoe just pop in real quick. He says he has a show at the same time, but he was just swinging by and he'll catch the replay. Roscoe, a great member of the community. I appreciate you, brother. And I will have to catch your rewind a little bit later, but I appreciate you stopping in. Let's see. We got my man Sith Lordly in the house. What is going on from the SpineTicks crew? Good to see you, Sith. Andy doing two things at once. I see you're everywhere. I love it. I love it. My man, poor Mike in the house. What is going on, Mike? Good to see you, man. Thanks for stopping in, listening, painting the bathrooms. Nice. Productivity during the Origins show. I love it. We got my main man, Eric Azor's Tiger. I can't speak today. Azor's Tiger. What's going on, Eric? Good to see you. We also got my man Michael in the house, Sove Collector. Thanks for stopping in, Michael. We got my man Dave in the house. What is up, Cajun? Thanks for stopping by. We got John Stout also hanging out with us here today. Appreciate you, John. Let's see. We got Kevin in the house. What is going on, Kevin? Greetings, my friend. Thanks for stopping in as well. And speak of the devil, there he is. John heard his name called and he's swinging by. Good to see you, John. Thanks for stopping in as always. I skipped my man Jason here, Claiming Comics too. What is going on, Jason? thanks for stopping in. Jason's been reading some really good books lately and making me spend a lot of money, but I appreciate you, brother. Promiscuous Time Traveler, also one of my favorite names in YouTube.
I love it,
you, brother. Right? Thanks for stopping in, guys. Make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you are subbed up over on Andy's channels if you're not already, and if you're watching that replay, thanks for taking the time to watch the replay. So, Andy, let's get into some of the fun here. Now, this podcast, I mean, this is all about you, my friend. So, I want to start with the main question of, when it comes to this hobby, where did it all start for you? How old were you? What did your environment look like? Did you have like friends or family members that helped you get into this? Like, what did that look like for you?
Man, so I kind of, if I go to the very beginning, I end up answering two questions, I think. So what I'll do is it really kind of started with, when did Image get created? 1990, 91, 92, 93?
Early, yeah.
So the super early 90s is really when I started frequenting an LCS, getting some money for mowing lawns and things of that nature, and had my first or second bike, and that LCS was close enough to ride to, much like everybody else. And I doubly remember the pain of having a very small budget and wanting pretty much everything in the shop. It's kind of where it all started. I didn't have a ton of friends that collected and read comic books. There were 5 or 6 of us in junior high and into high school, where we played Magic the Gathering, we read comic books, we traded comic books. There was plenty of comic books I traded away that I never should have traded away. Things of that nature. And it was a very small, tight-knit group of us growing up that kind of hung out together, and we still talk, and we still go to toy shows and comic shows together in Michigan here, and bump into each other every now and again. But yeah, it's pretty common when you first get into that little bit of money doing yard work or doing chores around the house, is kind of when you start saving some of that up. And then your family is like, well, if you want these things and these hobbies, you have an income now, you need to exercise that.
Right. Learn a thing or two about dollars. Yep. Yeah, man, that's cool. And so, you talk about the 90s, you mentioned Image. Was it the boom and hype of Image that got you into it, or did it just happen to be at the same time? Were you already just stumbling in on like the big two, or were you in everything at that time?
It wasn't necessarily the big boom of Image, but I'll say this, the boom of Image, the beginning of Image, definitely turned me into a comic book speculator. I wasn't a massive Spider-Man fan, like the standard superheroes I wasn't a huge fan of, but comic books in general interested me, and I would basically look to see what I was interested in picking up at the shop there for that week. And I got to, when you're at your very first beginnings, you don't know what you really like. You're picking up this, you're picking up that. It depends on what catches your eye and what you're really going to be into. And then eventually, while I was going through that and figuring things out, that's when you get a mishmash of maybe a little bit of Hulk, maybe a little bit of this, maybe a little bit of that. And then all of a sudden, Image pulled me over. And that's when I really started picking up a lot of that.
Yeah. And were you, I mean, at this time, were you picking up mainly new issues that were being released, or did you do some back bin diving as well?
Oh, I was wholeheartedly back bin diving for Punisher stuff.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Oh, yeah. Punisher was the main pull into the LCS, buying a lot of that stuff. So I would go and first back issue bin dive, collecting runs of Punisher Warzone, Punisher War Journal, the original volume 2 run of Punisher. And when I didn't find anything available that time is when I was going to new issues. And that's where I discovered Image, and then Top Cow and a lot of that other stuff. And Michael Turner art. Oh my God.
Love Michael Turner.
Malibu. Yep. What concert? Oh no.
What concert cost 45 cents? 50 Cent featuring Nickelback. Classic, Dave. Classic. Promiscuous Time Show says, dang, ComicManAndy just subbed me up while he's answering questions. Yeah. Multitasking always. The guy who invented zero. Thanks for nothing.
Oh my.
All right. So, very cool there. Like it's always interesting to hear, what people were collecting, especially right off the bat. Was there, are you a Comic-Con goer? Have you gone to Comic-Cons before? Do you recall your first experience at a Comic-Con and where that was?
Very, very vaguely. And to get to that story a little bit, the other story of the first comic book has to come up too.
Yeah.
And that was 1988. Yeah, 1988. Punisher War Journal #1 hit the shelves, hit the newsstand, and we were passing through a drugstore, and it was just happened to be one of those times like we find ourselves doing that with our son, is he's having a really good day. Something sticks out to him that he was really interested in. He's been really good, and then we can kind of consider it. It was one of those situations where my mom told me to pick something out. We were at the drugstore, and I picked out Punisher War Journal #1, which entered me into that Punisher collecting phase, and that was, like I said, 88.
Yeah.
So then 4, 5, 6 years later, as you're growing up and getting that you're getting that little bit of income, and then discovering that you can go to the comic book stores. When I started collecting Punisher heavily, then got into the new books, and because I was doing this, because I was coming home with a backpack full of comic books every now and then, my family realized what I was kind of getting into. My dad took me to my first comic book convention, the Grand Rapids Comic Con in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I can never remember. I'll never be able to remember the year. I remember where it was at, the building it was at. And that's about all I can remember.
Yeah.
It was a ton of people. It was a ton of stuff. I can never really remember what was going on. We didn't buy anything. It was more about going there. And I think my dad got frustrated with how busy it was. And he stuck it out as long as he could. And then we left. That was the first and last comic book convention I went to until I was my own adult living out on my own.
Yeah.
But now we try to go to 3 a year.
Nice.
C2E2, Detroit, Motor City Comic Con. The Grand Rapids Comic Con kind of ebbs and flows because that's less of a Comic Con now, and it's more of a pop culture convention. So comic numbers kind of dwindle there year after year. And there's a few steadfast dealers that still show up there that I'll go visit. But I paid less for my tickets to Baltimore in 19 than what it cost to go to this one in my backyard. And Baltimore was solid comic books.
Yeah.
Bumper to bumper. So it ebbs and flows. And now the more the community I meet, the more we get out there, the more I'm like, I got to go to MegaCon. I'm going to have to go to MegaCon one of these. I really want to go to MegaCon one of these years. I'll get back to Baltimore. We're looking at this year, potentially.
Oh, nice. If you do, I'll be there.
Motor City is literally the weekend before Baltimore.
Oh wow.
So we'll be in Detroit for that convention.
Yeah.
Then I got to go work. Then I turn around and try to get a flight Friday night into Baltimore. I don't know. We're gonna
cutting it close.
We're gonna see how that pans out. Yeah, because they decided to pile up all the conventions in the third or fourth quarter of the year.
Right.
But in the ideal convention schedule, it's like 3 to 5 conventions a year is what we try to go to.
Yeah, that's
probably going to start turning into 5 a year.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of with you there, especially, as I've been, or as we've all been, getting to know each other in the community and just meeting more people and things like that. It's these experiences just become better and better. So I wanted to ask you, are you far from C2E2 or how far is Chicago? That's Chicago, right? C2E2?
I'm in the dead middle of nowhere in Michigan.
Okay.
So it's like equal driving opportunities all the way around. C2E2 isn't very far for us. Okay. Detroit's not very far for us. Neither is Grand Rapids. And there's conventions down in Tennessee and Kentucky and some other places that I hear people talk about. It's like that. It's not necessarily a day trip, but that'd be some areas I'd like to go to as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, especially if you can reach in a car trip, that's definitely doable. If you like road trips, that's even better. So was there, throughout this time, obviously, you're talking about the late 80s, early 90s, where comics brought you all the way to kind of where you are now. Before we get to where you are now, was there a gap of time where you took a break ever? Were you just, gas on the floor pedal like the entire time collecting and reading comics?
Oh man, much like everybody, I've had my breaks. Yeah. And my breaks were much longer and much darker, if you will. So I collected comic books straight up through high school. And when you get to that bridge of high school coming to an end, you not necessarily know what to do. At first, you start working a little bit more to earn more money. And then next thing I know, not next thing I know, it was planned, but eventually I joined the Marine Corps and left. Well, comic books don't travel. They don't pack, they don't travel. So there was a solid couple of years where I didn't have access to them at home. Then I grabbed some and brought them with me to one of my duty stations and realized this was not what I thought it was going to be, trying to shuttle these things around and keep them safe. So I ended up selling off, I'd say the better part, the bulk of my collection, because at that point, you're interested in many other things, and these things look like boat anchors, just massive, like short boxes of boat. They're just boat anchors. What am I going to do with these? You've run a storage unit. You can't protect them 100% like you want to.
Right.
The storage units where I was at down south, high humidity, it's super wet, lots of rain. I was like, they're just going to get ruined. So I sold them all off for beer money. Regretted that to this day. And that's why this personal journey of rebuilding this collection has been pedaled to the floor for a couple of years now. But then it wasn't until I got out of the Marine Corps and got back home and started looking for hobbies and what I wanted to do. And eBay was picking up steam in, I'd say, the late 90s. I don't know when I don't remember when it started, but eBay was really picking up steam 2004, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
And becoming very convenient as well as mobile devices and mobile apps.
Sure.
So then it got really easy to find some of the stuff I was looking for.
Yeah.
So then it wasn't really pedaled to the floor, but I started doing a little bit of dipping my toe in speculation, picking up some of the Punisher books that I had let go of. And then I realized in 2005, that's when I can get books in graded format, because CGC started in 2000 or 2001.
Yeah. Right.
They were not very expensive back then.
Not at all, right?
I was buying Punisher Volume 2 9.8s. I was buying them for anywhere from $25 to $35 in a 9.8. And I'm like, are you kidding me? My boyhood run that I fell in love with, I can get in graded format?
That's crazy.
So I started a CGC registry collection and actually started buying up the entire run. But I was always really like nitpicky about it. I'm like, I'm not going to pay $40 for that one. I want it for $35. So I'd let it go.
Right.
So I nitpicked here and there and whatnot and built up probably, I'm somewhere about the 60th percentile on completion for that run.
Wow.
Only because this last couple of years, anything in 9.8 is now like, it doesn't matter if it's a key or not. If it's a 9.8, it's those Punisher slabs in 9.8 that are non-keys. People are asking several hundreds of dollars for them. Yeah,
there's a big premium. Yeah.
Although the standard sales prices, when you look at GPA or you look at Go Collect or any of those other factors, they're like sub $100.
Sure.
But people are asking high prices for them. So I kind of put a pause on that. And now I'm just rambling about that. But getting into that CGC stuff and buying that made me realize, well, there's many other things out there through eBay and through other avenues that I really want to get or look at, like The Walking Dead. Fell in love with The Walking Dead. We bought a Walking Dead #1 CGC 9.8 to hold on to. That was probably my first like real solid spec play. That was probably in the neighborhood of like $400 some odd dollars. And I remember my wife and I were dating and I'm like, I feel really bad. This is a lot of money. This is so much money. And I bugged her for about a week for her opinion. I'm like, what should we do? Really? She's like, if you really believe in it, do it then. So I borrowed a little bit of money from her and we kind of went halvesies on that book and held on to that one for quite a while.
Yeah. Wow.
Ended up selling that to pay for our open barter wedding.
Wow. I was going to say, yeah, I imagine you must have made out pretty well. Jeez.
Now we're hunting that book again.
Oh yeah. And were you reading this as the series was coming out initially, or was it the show, or what?
So yeah, when the series was first coming out, I picked it up. I was so excited. I'm a really big fan of like sci-fi, zombie, space, post-apocalyptic, end of the world kind of storylines and stuff like that. So this is right up my alley. I grew up with the Romeo zombie flicks. You know what I mean? So this was right down my pipeline. I'm like, I'm really gonna like this. And I get into it, and I remember that first issue. I was like, but it's black and white. How do you do a bloody zombie tale in black and white? So I stuck with it for probably the first half of the run. And I just kind of like, man, I other things happened in life that kind of coincide with some other stuff we're going to talk about in a little bit. And I ended up waiting to try to pick stuff up and trade. But I remember that. Yeah. I was like, how do you tell an incredible zombie story in black and white? And it came to me as getting through this or getting halfway into this is it's not a zombie story. It's a story of humanity.
Right.
and the end of humanity as we know these characters to be. And then that's when I really realized, oh yeah, then it didn't matter that it was black and white at that point moving on forward. But now that they're doing that in The Walking Dead Deluxe every 2 weeks and issues out, I'm picking up everyone and I'm going through all the way to the end. I'm not getting the extras, I'm just getting the cover A's, but I'm reliving that issue to issue. That's a ton of fun.
Nice. And did you watch the show, or were you a big fan of the show?
We got to season 6, and it's a bit of a departure from the original storyline, number 1.
Right. Okay.
Number 2, we were pretty unhappy with the decision that they made to remove Gimple. No, not Gimple. Sorry, Drenabot. Frank. When they pulled Frank Drenabot, however you pronounce that, we were pretty upset with that. We felt like the style that he was working with was exactly what needed to be seen on TV as a producer. Then when they did that, the production values went down. Somebody who spent time in the military knows that things, it's just like if you were an astronaut, you wouldn't want to watch shows about space travel and shuttle flying and rocket flying because you're like, that's not real. That's not how that happened.
Right.
Well, the same thing when you do a zombie series where everybody's got weapons and guns and using like military tactics and these things. Once they got into that second season and Drenabot wasn't working on it, the production value dropped for us, or at least for me. And I'm like, somebody's using a firearm on TV. The action's not cycling, the trigger's not being pulled, and there's just a flash at the end of the gun and there's no cartridge being spent out. I'm like, that's terrible. That's poor production value, poor directing, and poor, what do they call it, the CGI or the graphics at the end. I'm like, this is just terrible. So the production value went down. Gimple got a little bit of a hold on it and things did get better, but in the end, Gimple ruined the show for us. I'll be dead honest. Gimple ruined Walking Dead for us. And then you get this revolving storyline in season, I think it's 5, 6, 7, and 8, roughly. Basically, every time we kind of hear a little bit of news about a season we didn't watch, I'm like, God, this sounds just like the season before that. This is this revolving storyline that is terribly like. So we cut ties with all of that, but now that they've just started the last season, when it's available to binge watch on Netflix or something else, I'll get through that and I'll finish watching it. But it was heartbreaking for them to take that much of a departure from the series or from the actual story. And then for them to play the politics of who did what and who's in control of what. They delivered a subpar show, in my opinion.
I was to say, I haven't, I watched the first like 3 seasons, and then I kind of zoned out after a little while. But my girlfriend followed a little bit further, and she pretty much just feels the same way that you did, at least in terms of like the recycled storyline kind of, again and again. So I think she still kind of pays attention to news that comes out, but she doesn't watch it anymore either. Want to say a quick hello here. We got Weapon X hanging in the chat. Also had Mercy Collectibles, Andres all the way from Sweden. Good to see you, my friend.
Nice.
Rock City also hanging out with us, and Alan Climbing Comics. What's going on, Alan? And John's Comics with Kids and Cajun are posting a ton of great corny dad jokes that you can that you'll have to, Andy, make sure you go back through.
Well, this one from John just now. I knew a guy who collected candy canes. They were all in mint condition. It's phenomenal.
Make sure you guys are writing this down. I know Mercy's a big fan of this stuff as well. So,
well, while we're on this topic, Justin, I got to ask you, man, how do you deal with a sad astronaut?
How do you deal with a sad astronaut?
Just give him some space.
But give me. We'll hype button that one. We'll hype button that one.
We were into Fear the Walking Dead a little bit. We caught some of that, and I don't know where that's at. We gotta finish tying up some of that stuff at some point.
Yeah. Dead Air in the house. What's going on, Dead Air? Good to see you, brother Joe. Station brother Joe. Michael says this is why I don't watch shows. Don't watch any shows or movies. Let's see. We got Tacky in the house. What's going on, brother?
Interrupting cow.
Luke's Comics also hanging out with us, guys. Make sure you smash the like button, and if you guys are not following Andy, make sure you do so. I put his information in the description below. So all right, let me ask you this now. Back to kind of where you are at now. I want to ask you about where and when did it first start for you, or why? Maybe the question is why, when, where did your YouTube channel develop? When did you first want to say, I want to start doing stuff on YouTube and also Instagram. Like, what came first? Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh man. I want to say it was 7 or 8 years ago. I actually created the YouTube channel, but you create the YouTube channel so that you can comment and you can subscribe and you can thumbs up other people's stuff necessarily, because you can't start doing that until you quote unquote create a channel.
Sure. So you weren't putting content out at that time though.
Correct. It was just it was a dead channel, kind of like what everybody has available so that they can be a part of the community.
Totally.
Started watching everything I could find, and that kind of grew from I wanted to figure out how to make window boxes in comic books for signing events for convention stuff.
Yep.
And I found a couple of videos online there, some instructional stuff, and that's when I realized, well, there was a community on here. Started checking out. I can't remember who I checked out first or what content I found first, but it was bouncing around until the outskirts of this community, until all of a sudden you find out more and more people, or you find more and more people, and then you get into the circle and you're like, wow, okay, now you get to really start to know people and hang out. And that's when you discover people like Comic Tom that have a massive amount of following for the community and do the regular shows. And then Brian from Simpleman's Comics, followed him in their content for quite a while now. And then when you get to meet more of the individuals that their channels are their doorway or their gateways into the community, where they drop content semi-regularly and they're kind of hanging out and they're more casual channels, that's really when you get to meet like the heart of the community. You start meeting everybody. And that was Bear Island did a Royal Guard contest 3, I think 2.5, somewhere between 2 and 3 years ago. And that's when I actually dropped my first video. And if somebody goes to my channel and scrolls all the way back and looks for that, I think the date's on there. I think we're coming up on the 3-year mark for that this fall. I think I just crossed the 2-year mark though. It's really blurry now, but yeah, that Royal Guard contest was simple. Who would you pick anywhere in the fictional universe of characters to be your Royal Guard for if you were in that show Game of Thrones? Okay. And that was just a hilarious ideal. Andy had a photographic memory, but he never developed it. This is true, John, because I'm struggling right now with memory. But it was you picked the top 10 people to be in your Royal Guard. And I remember this is absolutely hilarious because I picked Frank from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. You could pick anybody. Right. Like people were being really serious about the characters and Colossus and all these great characters that were protecting them. And I'm like, yeah, but think of where you could take this stuff. That was a ton of fun. That was the first video I ever did. And it was like, I don't care if we win anything. I got to be a part of this and it was a lot of fun. And that was an incredible eye-opening experience on what it takes to create content. Because it takes a tremendous amount of work until you really teach yourself. I bet you 90% of the people in the comic book community that are creating content are all self-taught. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it takes an incredible amount of energy and incredible amount of work. And I'm like, I could do this. And it was fun. Yeah. Edited videos were a lot of work. So then I really got into live streaming. Live streaming, I had a ton of fun with for a long time. And then I ebb and flowed back into kind of edited content. And now I'm finding myself enjoying live streaming wholeheartedly several times a week and creating some edited cut down content from that for people that want to watch 5, 10, 15-minute videos instead of hour-long content. Sure. Yep. So, and I haven't looked back. Like this is something that I'm going to continue doing for the foreseeable future. And as I kind of develop and change as an individual, my collection might develop and change. There might be some other videos that I do just out of other hobbies and stuff like that. Maybe I create a sub channel or a second channel, but sure, it's just too much fun. And like when you talk about your initial circle of friends when you're collecting comic books as a kid and whatnot, it's kind of a comic like desert where I live. Or at least anybody that's reading and collecting comic books on a regular basis, nobody really gets together and hangs out and talks. Like everybody, my LCS is always busy. People never stay and hang out and talk. Wow. They grab their books and they leave. Yeah. And it's like, the only thing missing here is like a coffee shop or a bar attached to the LCS so that people would stay and hang out and talk comic books. Right. So until they create something like that, I'm right here. Yeah. Yep.
No, it makes sense. And you definitely, we get these experiences. I mean, what we're doing right now, even just like shooting the shit, hanging out, getting to know each other, talking comics. Like, you see some awesome shows too that have multiple panels of people, and it's just a big hangout. It's just like being in the shop. So,
Yep. So actually, to finish rounding that out, because I
yeah,
missed a really big chunk of that,
yeah,
is when I started doing some of those edited videos, is when I discovered the Comic Core. And the Comic Core back in the days before StreamYard and before a lot of these other applications or things that we have, would use Google Hangouts and go live on YouTube from Google Hangouts.
Okay. Yeah.
Anybody could join Google Hangouts.
Right.
So hilarity would ensue with some very awkward, vulgar situations that were, it was like the wild west 3-4 years ago back then. And it was a ton of fun. And at that time, I was working a weird off shift that allowed me to stay up really late on Friday nights. So Friday nights were the hangout nights for just about most YouTube channels at that time that were going live.
Right.
And I found myself hanging out with Drew Manchu, Seawater 19, Chad, Cat Ren, Mark, BKR, and those people just having a blast. They would go live for whatever content they wanted to do for a while. And then once they were done going live, we'd hang out for 3 or 4 hours later talking about comic books in general and conventions and all these other ideas and plans. And that was a ton of fun. And that's when they actually offered me an opportunity to do my own show on the Comic Core. That developed into Andy Given Thursdays.
Yep.
And Andy Given Thursdays I learned so much from that and had such a blast learning how to create thumbnails, learning how to do live streaming in general, or just the ebbs and flows of actually producing a live show.
Yep.
Production value of what we're able to do here is not like it's channel cable TV or anything like that, or a movie, but it's amazing to see what goes into the production side of things for a live stream.
Sure.
To do that, then to coordinate guests, and then to be a host like what you're doing here.
Yeah.
That was an eye-opening experience. That show ran for almost a year on the Comic Core.
Yeah.
Before schedules kind of forced it into a different situation.
Yeah. That's awesome. That is really cool, man, to kind of hear your steps along the way. Just as you mentioned before, like just starting out by creating an account just so that you could chime in and be part of, commenting and the chat and whatnot. So very cool to get that kind of background story. I want to say a quick hello. I saw a couple other people jump in here. I saw my man Paulie, Back Issues Paulie, in the house. What's going on, brother? We also got Sheena. My girl Sheena is also hanging out with us. Let me see. I thought I skipped. Let me scroll back up a little. Johnny Boy is also here with us. Thanks for stopping in. Eamon is in here as well. What's going on, brother? We got Mark, Legion of Comics, hanging out with us too. And I thought I saw PJ Morris. I'm skipping over him now, but PJ Morris, Paul Morris, he was in the house as well. Good to see you, Paul. And some of the jokes just keep coming. So yeah, classic. That one's a classic. So let me ask you this. Well, let's talk a little bit about your collection, and more specifically, do you have a specific book or two that you want to show or talk about here that means something special to you that you want to share?
Yes, and buckle up. This is gonna be long-winded.
Go for it.
Anybody that knows me, for those of you that don't know me or haven't been to the channel or haven't subscribed, is this channel wholeheartedly collects Saga heavily. Saga issue number 1. And we'll start this story by when we talk about earlier about collecting and ebbs and flows and when you take some breaks and stuff like this. I took a break for a while there to focus on my career. And in that time frame, I had also met a very special person who I am now married to, the CEO of the Comic Dojo. She's upstairs there right now. We were dating at the time, and you kind of put your money in other places, like, well, if we're going to get married, we want to save up for this, save up for a down payment on a house, all these other things. And then when all that happens, you're kind of creating or kind of working on that dream that your family instills. What is a perfect life, or should be your goals growing up as an adult? The house, that picket fence, that marriage, or the wedding, children, all this other stuff. So when you get to that point, when you start talking about creating a family, you're like, oh yeah, what happened? We haven't gotten there yet. We start looking into that. We eventually were told that we would never be able to have children. And it was one of those situations, it's pretty much not going to happen.
Right.
And we were told that It just wasn't going to be a card in our hands, so to speak.
Mm.
So that's when we kind of focused on creating a new 5-year plan for ourselves. I remember leaving that office after that appointment, going across the street to a Buffalo Wild Wings, and we all, like, our family members were there with us. They drove us to that appointment, and we all just started drinking heavily. Like, what are we gonna do for the next 5 years? We gotta recreate a plan. It's like, well, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, and I'm like, I gotta get back into comic book collecting. So get back to my LCS. I walk in. I'm like, it's been a number of years since I've been here, guys. What did I miss? What do I need to read right now? Oh, Andy, welcome back. Here's the first thing you need to get back into that you missed. Saga trade paperback #1. You're gonna love it. Okay, cool. Thanks, guys. I get home with the book. What's the first 2 pages? She's having a baby.
Yeah. That's right.
I threw that book across the room, and I think the dent's still in the wall there. And I was pretty upset, and I'm like, this is just the universe just kicking me when we're down.
Oh man.
About 2 weeks later, we found out we were pregnant after that.
Wow. So oh my gosh.
The universe delivers.
Wild. Yeah.
And I picked up that book and finished reading it, and absolutely fell in love with the story. Absolutely fell in love with the characters. For anybody that's read Saga, they know what I'm talking about when it's super, super relatable. Romeo and Juliet crossed with Star Wars, crossed with some other things. And it's just incredibly relatable on that path of becoming an adult and becoming a family and coping with those ebbs and flows and those hard times. And the coin machine at the factory just stopped working for now. It makes no sense. Jesus, yes. So we started that journey of collecting Saga books. And it began with us saving up a little bit here, a little bit there, and then completing that full run of Raw books, right? Yes, it's a miracle. That full run of Raw books, and I still have the original #1 right now that we picked up.
Wow.
Still have all of those other books. And then, like I said, we were collecting that Punisher run. I'm like, well, let's start going after these books graded. And I'm like, well, it's still early enough. There doesn't seem to be a lot of spec information as far as Saga goes. Those 9/8 are still inexpensive at the time, comparatively to the rest of the market.
Right.
So we started picking up. We picked up a first print, then you pick up the second print, and we picked up eventually the bulk of them. And then it came to our attention that there's extremely rare variants. Yep. So then we created a plan to pick up, right over my left shoulder here is the Saga retailer incentive. That was our 2020 goal for last year, was that one book. That one book we were able to make happen in 2020. Then all of the Image First Saga reprints, it took several years to find a 2014 copy of that, because that's one extremely underprinted. And then just recently on our last CGC unboxing, we've got the Comic Con India variant of Saga #1. So the story behind this book is there was a comic convention in India, and this book was given away in grab bags to every single person that walked into the convention.
Oh, wow.
Every single person that walked into the convention got this book. Every 5-year-old, every 6-year-old, every 7-year-old. And nowhere on the book does it say for mature readers only. So you can tell how outraged some family members were that their young children were getting this extremely graphic book. So lots of lawsuits entailed out of that, or started out of that.
Sure.
The bulk of the books were destroyed. The story that I'm finding online in communities that have talked about this in the past, where the information is still resides online, is that lots of the books were thrown away. Lots of copies were destroyed because of lawsuits. Very few of these remain. Does Andy like Saga or something? Just a little bit. And we got this one back in an 8.5. This was the highest grade copy we were able to find in 3 years online. Jeez. And only just recently 2 other copies became available on eBay, and they're in way worse condition than this, and they're like $300 a pop.
Wow. Jeez, I had no idea.
Maybe they came in 2 packs, but it was a giveaway promotional book that should have been heavily printed and heavily handed out, but because of the way it was handled, a lot of them were destroyed, and not many of them made it to the United States. I'm sure somebody somewhere has a short box of these in excellent condition in a closet that they just don't realize that people are looking for it. Somewhere over, in India or in some other country where this convention happened, and somebody just happens to be sitting on them because they just don't know what they are. So eventually I'm hoping that becomes a reality where those become available online somewhere.
Sure.
And there's been duped websites. There's been websites that have tried to dupe people and look real to take your money to send you as many copies as you want to order. And me and M3 Lions and a couple other community members stumbled on that website, and we were all like, yeah, don't, we're not going to take a shot at this. Yeah. And then it mysteriously disappeared. I don't know. This is until somebody finds a short box somewhere. This is a ghost book. There are only 2 other books on the census. One's a 9.4, which I really want to buy, but I don't think it's not. I can't find it for sale anywhere. And then another one's a 9.2. Then there's this 8.5 copy.
Wow.
All 3 of those books were pressed and cleaned by Gary at Impressive Comic Book Services. He had no idea how rare the book was, but all 3 of them went through his hands.
Wow. And
this one just has some color rub and some scratching on the back that just can't be handled by cleaning and pressing. But I'm super happy. I was hoping for no less than an 8.5, and I was kind of hoping for a 9.0, and it ended up coming back an 8.5.
Very nice.
Wow, he's hardcore at it today,
John.
So that's a long-winded almost 10-minute story of.
No, I love it.
How we became collectors of Saga as we were getting back into, after a short break, getting back into comic book collecting, and the pedal's been to the floor since then.
Yeah.
Now it's more about paying attention to what things are costing before I do some pickups, because the market's gone nuts.
Yep. Big time.
Nuts. And then if you want me to roll into the last book I have set aside here, I just grabbed 2 for now.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. Yeah.
But remember that first book I ever picked up as a kid in 88 was that Punisher War Journal #1.
Yeah.
So that book has always had a special place in my heart. And I think I probably have a short box worth of raw copies of that book somewhere.
Yeah.
And just every time I buy one, I keep finding them everywhere. Every time I go to organize books, I keep finding them everywhere. So when I found this available on eBay in the mid 2000s, maybe somewhere around 2010, somewhere in that neighborhood, 2005 to 2010, I found this pop up, and I had to have it as a graded copy of Punisher War Journal.
Oh, nice.
in a 9.9.
Oh my gosh, that is awesome, dude.
So
9.9.
all those years ago, people still weren't heavy into collecting CGC, because remember when CGC first started, the greater portion of the comic book community and the comic book collectors out there, CGC grading books was a taboo subject from 2000 to 2010, pretty much. So people collecting graded books, it wasn't big back then. And then when people weren't collecting 9.9s, they weren't collecting 9.8s, they weren't, people were buying some books like I was for Punisher books to collect them. But people weren't necessarily focused on what the grade of a book was necessarily. It was, is it a key? Is it not a key? Punisher War Journal #1 isn't seen as a massive key or a mega key. It's just the origin of the Punisher told in a Matt Murdock appearance. But this is really early Jim Lee work at Marvel. Like Alpha Flight 51 was his first pencils. This was a Carl Potts Jim Lee art. So Jim Lee was doing the interiors for Punisher. So that's super cool in my opinion, because I love Jim Lee's work. And this is a Carl Potts cover. Yeah, Carl Potts and Scott Williams cover. But this, a couple $100 that long ago. Now there are people that are dedicated to collecting just 9.9s, and there are only 3 of these in the world.
Wow.
In 88, with this paper quality and what it was and how fragile or what the paper quality was like, I'm fairly certain people can continue submitting Punisher War Journal #1s and we'll probably never ever see another 9.9.
Yeah, that's nuts. Yeah, 9.9s in general. I mean, that's crazy. And I can imagine. How many did you say they were on the consensus for that?
The 3. There's 3, and I have one of them. Nice. And a second one came up on eBay just several months ago, and I almost bought it. But the problem is, the reason why it showed up on eBay is because of how crazy the market was, and the guy put a "I don't want to sell it" price on there. But if you're interested, this is what it's going to take. And I looked at my wife, and I'm like, "This is a." And there was no make an offer. There was no, and eventually it got pulled right down. It never sold. So it told me that the guy that was putting it up was like potentially, but he wasn't really committed to selling it, or she wasn't really committed to selling it. They had that at $5,000.
Oh wow!
And I'm like, I can't afford that for that book. But if you think about that, then we would own 66% of the 9.9s for that book in the world.
It is tempting, huh?
And I'm like, like, man, maybe then it got to be, well, what can I sell here? I'm like, wait, no, don't do that. I've done that before. Don't do that. Not you've got the 199, that's fine. But it was in a newer holder, newer case. This is in a Gen 2, Gen 3 case, I think. It's got the older label, but you can't, I kind of want a new case, but you can't risk sending this in for a reholder. You can't.
Right.
Because in the very small subtext, you agree when you send it in, you agree to that if it doesn't meet their standards when they go to open the slab, that they're going to regrade it.
Yep.
Like if they see anything that doesn't meet their standards during that process, they're going to regrade it. And to lose the 9.9 just on a reholder is
not worth it. Yeah. Yeah. John's been on fire. Dave had a good one up here too.
Oh God. Why do melons have weddings? Because they can't elope.
This is what I meant to highlight, but that one too.
You hear about the restaurant on the moon? Great food. I got to remember that one. I got to remember that one.
Just throwing them all up here so the people watching the rewind have something to chime in.
Oh, wow. John. Speaking of colors, man. Justin, I heard the first annual meeting of the Camouflage Club was a disaster. It looks like no one showed up.
Oh. Oh man, I'm glad that you brought some of these with you because
90% of the fun is the reaction because the jokes can be absolutely utterly terrible.
Totally, man, totally. And you got to be able to laugh at yourself. That's the other thing. Because sometimes you're the only one laughing. So
this is true. This is true. Yeah, I've had that often.
Totally. So very cool books, by the way. I mean, just some awesome stuff there. I knew a little bit of your, well, I know that you were a big fan of Saga and how many books you own, but I never got to hear like that story, that behind the scenes story. So really cool, interesting to hear kind of how that ties in with your family and your personal life. And it, it's so much more than just the book,
Yep.
So I totally get it. And that India book, my gosh, I had no idea about that book at all. I didn't know that was a thing. Didn't know that they were getting rid of them. It makes sense. I get it. And that now there's, not so many of them out there. So it's incredible that you have an 8.5 of that specifically. It's
literally a ghost book. And in the retailer incentive, 500 copies produced.
Oh, wow.
Asking prices for that in a 9.8 are over $4,000 now, or hovering at $4,000.
Jeez.
It's we made a conscious effort in early 2020 to get it when we did, and the book has appreciated threefold from when we picked it up.
Damn.
Which is funny though, because that Comic-Con India is the retailer incentive is on the verge of being a ghost book. The only reason why it's not a ghost book is that people are still regularly there's about 5 or 6 sales a year, I think, roughly, when it's slow, and maybe like close to 10 sales a year. So people about once a month or once every other month post a Saga for sale on eBay. The Saga Comic-Con India is a true ghost book, but because most people don't know about it, it doesn't command much of a value.
Right.
And when people do find them, they don't come for sale. They get snapped up, they get graded, and they get put away. So the couple of raw copies that are on eBay right now are being sold from India, and they're in worse condition, way worse condition than this one. So it's kind of like I'm tempted to buy one to see if it's just it's a fair chunk of money, but it's one of those things where it's like if it comes out of my comic fund, it doesn't create an emergency for my family. And I'm wondering if there's truth to that. But the only other copy I've ever seen, I picked up from Great Britain, United Kingdom for I think 25 pounds or something like that. But the thing looked like I got pulled out of a trash bin.
Oh, okay. It's like really beat up.
Yeah, I picked up that one simply because I wanted to be able to open up and read it. And did they print it in a different language?
Yeah, you want to see the impact.
You know what I mean? So I have a reader copy of that. But so that's a true ghost book for a Saga collector right now. Like utter ghost. Just, most people don't know about it. You have to look at the registry census, and you have to look at the registry to see that it has a placeholder and a spot to realize, oh, CGC recognizes it, and that's out there somewhere.
Yeah. Jeez. You make my my one 9.8 that I have look very small. Just saying.
I can't stop buying those, man. No, having a Saga number 1 9.8, in my opinion, is the next big blue chip modern grail to have.
Yeah.
But because there were 36,000 printed and there's such a massive fan base for Saga, I think you have to double the fan base and for more people to know about it, for it to really kind of become like, it'll probably never be the next like Walking Dead number 1. It won't be that big or something of that nature, but I think it's got the it's got the gumption, and I think it's got the ingredients needed to be a blue chip modern key for any modern collector like myself or you.
Yeah. And hey, who knows, when they eventually come back from their hiatus, maybe that'll kind of spark, some new talk and some new hype around some
The
things.
rumor mill is already starting. That it sounds like rumor. Take it with everybody listening. Take it with a grain of salt. It's just complete conjecture, just rumor.
Yeah.
That Baltimore 2021, Brian K. Vaughan being there is potentially going to be the announcement for the return, or the dates for the return for Saga. That's what Saga Collecting Community Online is talking about. So that's already driving prices of Saga #1 up. And I think 9.8 asking prices are approaching or holding. I haven't checked in a week or so, but it's like $700-800 is what I think people are asking. And I think sales are hovering in between $600 and $700.
Wow. Okay.
That's substantially more than when we started collecting it. So it's getting some legs. I think it's got a ton of legs, but it's starting to actually happen.
That's a big, I haven't looked at the pricing for that book in a long time. And I remember when I first got into comics, that was one of the books that I got. And I bought that book with the 17 other issues that went along with it. It was the first 18 issues. My buddy had under his bed that he found, and he's like, hey, and he put it on Facebook. Anybody want these? And I gave him $150 for the 18 issues.
Nice.
And it was all raw. And so I have the other ones that are still raw. They're probably 9/8 too, because you get everything in good shape.
That's essentially the same thing that we did. We went through the eBay route to find a chunk of those books to start, and then collect the rest of that run. And sure enough, well, I haven't sent the original issue in yet. I should.
I saw earlier, I want to say a quick hello to Superior Hero, also hanging out with us in the chat. Thanks for stopping by. Love all these jokes. I'll throw these up here for the people watching the replay. They've all been spot on. So appreciate you guys hanging out. We got
debris everywhere.
We got 22 people hanging with us. Appreciate all of you. Make sure you smash that like button, and make sure you're following and subbed up to Andy. I put his information in the description below. Appreciate that, brother. Thank you, Promiscuous Time Traveler. I appreciate the kind words. The chat's been great. So all right, I want to ask you before we get into some of the rapid fire questions, and we might go over a little over an hour.
I don't mind I don't mind going over if you don't mind, because
okay,
this
perfect.
Has been a long time coming, man.
All right, perfect. No, then we're good to go then. All right, then because I saw there's two questions I want to ask you then. First one is, what is the big picture for you now that with where you've come with books and the collection that you've built up now, years from now, where do you see yourself with your collection? Do you eventually just plan to sell everything? Do you plan on passing it down to your children? Do you plan on taking certain books to the grave with you? When you're into retirement, like that era of your life, at least for now, I know things can change, but kind of where do you picture your collection down the road?
Well, this has kind of turned into a family situation now, where my wife actually has her own collection in her craft hobby room.
Oh, nice.
She's got her own slabs and her own short box of books up there. She even started speculating on books herself. She's been she was buying and reading Philadelphia live off the shelf. And apparently, that's a whole nother story.
Nice.
Where this goes, I don't know. I do know that before some Star Wars stuff got really hot, we did speculate on Star Wars books, because we do want to pass this Star Wars stuff off to our son, because he enjoys Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yes, there it is. And with what we're seeing from Disney Plus and what we're seeing from streaming services and what's happening, I think Star Wars is going to see a big boom where they expand out into the Star Wars universe that we have never seen. And I feel like our son's going to grow up with a lot of amazing Star Wars content that we cannot wait to see spill out and come out, because it's just a gold mine. That Star Wars universe, and The Mandalorian is just scratching the surface. Totally. Book of Boba Fett's coming out this fall. Then you got the Ahsoka show coming. That's just the beginning, right?
Yep. Yep.
So as he grows up with this stuff, we wanted to get some of those major keys before things get too crazy. And thankfully, we were able to grab a couple of books, but those, potentially we're creating to pass down to our son. The Canto books that we've been buying in 9.8 from the very beginning, like right off the shelf, and getting them graded. In fact, that last CGC unboxing had several Canto books in there. Those are potentially passing down to our son. The whole collection, if he wants to have it, he can eventually have it. But I can't say I would never sell books. I'll never sell the Saga collection. That's the one collection that will never sell. The Punisher collection, probably never going to sell.
Yeah.
But there's probably at least half to 60% of our books at some point we would be probably comfortable with letting go of and passing on to either our son or to somebody else. But
Yeah.
it'd be crazy to think of, look at some of those collectors out there that have the collections that they do. Is I don't know what I would do with that when eventually we want to move again, or it's not a liquid asset, like it's not like having cash, but after collecting as long as we've had, you got to carry insurance on a collection like this. It's a real thing. It's not just a couple of short boxes anymore.
Right.
You're talking books appreciating at double or triple what they were just several years ago, and we don't know if it's going to stay that way. We'll see what happens. Eventually, in the long term, the major goal is going to be, what I'd like to do is I want to build another computer. I want to get production value or video value and audio value like you see with Chamorro Cinema is a great example of the visuals that I want to be able to achieve at some point. But I want to build another computer. I want to keep live streaming, and my next step up is to be able to deliver a cleaner video quality in 4K. That might take a year or two, who knows? And it might take selling a couple of books. But I'm not going anywhere. That's the next step. And then the collection is going to ebb and flow much like I do, or my life does. There's several parts, like I said, that aren't going to go anywhere. Potentially passing some down to your child. But then what do you do if your child doesn't want anything to do with comic books? I can't get him to sit down here and read a comic book. He can't read anyways, but he won't even bother to flip through one.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, well, let me just say then, I mean, from my experience and my dad looking at me, I didn't get into comics till I was 29 years old. So who knows? Maybe your son just gets into comics, as an adult much longer down the road. You just never know.
But our next collection goals are going to be completing a full run of Saga in 9.8. Now that all of the number ones are done, working to get that Comic-Con India in 9.8 is probably never going to happen, but we're going to try. We do have a full run of Saga, but not graded. So now the next step is issues 2 through 10 in 9.8. Yeah. And I think I've got enough 9.8 candidates to sub to CGC to make that happen.
Nice.
Continue to work on that Punisher run. And then there was one other big one. The Something is Killing the Children collection. All right off the shelf. All of those books that we bought when it was first hitting. Yeah. The first 3 of those went to CGC recently and got unboxed. The rest of them I'm going to do. My next CGC submission is going to be all Something is Killing the Children books. So the next unboxing is going to be pretty massive.
Wow. Very nice. Big shout out to Uncanny Swag. He says he's lurking. What's going on, Swag? Good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. The comments here are just fire, straight fire. So, by the way, Manny, Chamorro Cinema, you mentioned his visuals. They say it's the camera, but I think he's just a damn looking good guy. And I think that's
true. That's true too. That's true too. He's got me beat there.
Yeah. See, it's not just the camera, man. Speaking of, there's Chamorro. Station brother. Good to see you, my friend. Thanks for stopping in. So interesting to hear. Just kind of I'm always curious, what if people have, I mean, look, and this might change, obviously this, might change down the road, as time goes by, but I'm always curious about like where people's heads are with their collection when they're first buying things and making certain investments and knowing, that, you're starting to get a chunk of, equity or what these books are worth, adding up.
Not gonna lie, that Something's Killing the Children set, I've really been enjoying it, but if they do a show or if they do a movie and it becomes the next Walking Dead, like people are saying, that's potentially going to be a series that we let go of. It's just, it's one of those things that's great, but it doesn't have the ties to us like Saga does, or
Sure.
You know what I mean?
That makes sense. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Rock City here says, don't feel bad. I wanted too much to get comics when I was a kid, but all I was given money for baseball cards. When I got money, I came back in for comics. There you go.
Yep, yeah, I mean, basketball and baseball cards too.
Yeah. But yeah, basketball for me, I remember big time when I was a kid. I didn't really know much of what I had, but I just thought it was cool. All right. Next question for you here. And last one before we get into the rapid fire stuff. My question for you, I always like to bring this up. There are new, collectors coming into the hobby, new readers coming into the hobby every day. Thanks to like the MCU films and the TV shows and Netflix and all these other things. I feel like sometimes this hobby can be looked at as a little bit intimidating, especially with social media and people putting out their own opinions and showing off their collections and all these big books and things like that. And I never want to scare people off, right? We want to see this community grow. Do you have any advice for someone who might be brand new to the hobby, someone who might be looking on from the outside in even, and thinking about just, getting into reading, collecting, so on and so forth? Any general advice that you think of that comes to mind?
Absolutely. Step one, from the very get-go, create a budget. Create a budget that is sustainable and affordable and realistic, right?
Yep.
Create a cash budget. Don't never borrow money. Don't buy on a credit card. Create a cash budget that's sustainable and realistic for what you want to do when it comes to comic books. When you have that number on a piece of paper, and like practice it for several weeks or a month by pocketing that money or putting it in an envelope and just saving it. And if things go well, your first stop should be your local comic shop. Your absolute first stop should be your local comic shop, because the people working in your local comic shop are professionals. They live and breathe reads and comic books, graphic novels. When you go in there, you're going to need some direction. You don't know how or what way to vocalize what you're interested in necessarily, unless you're already paying attention to all of social media and everything like that.
Yeah.
You walk in there and tell them you're a massive sci-fi fan, or you're a massive horror reader, or something. You like criminal stories, like Ed Brubaker stuff, like just generalizing. They've been there for years. They know where to guide you and where to steer you, so that you're not spending money on things that you're not going to enjoy eventually.
Yep.
Because new comic book collectors and readers coming in are very vulnerable if they don't have not a moral compass, but they don't have a compass to what they like just yet.
Yeah.
A lot of us in the 80s and 90s just kind of bought stuff because we thought we would like it or it looked good, which is that's what they do. You eat with your eyes, right? So you buy something that looks interesting, then you get into it and it's not interesting, then you're like, well, I don't like this. And then you trade it to your friends or you get away. Save yourself the heartache, go to your LCS and find the professionals that will be able to guide you to what you like. And you're going to save yourself a tremendous amount of money for the first 5 years of collecting and reading easily.
Yeah. Yeah. Spot on. I love both of those. I mean, I'm still working on, budgeting and keeping control of that, right. That's an ongoing battle for heavy collectors and new collectors. But I love, the idea. Yeah. Getting to know your LCS, like, talking to them, taking time to actually, get to know the people that work there, and ask them for advice, I think is a great way to go about it. So well said, my friend. And thank you for sharing that. I always like to kind of have this segment, give a shout out to, people that are newer to collecting who might not even want to ask those questions or are embarrassed to put out there that they're not sure of something. So I think that's some great advice that you put out there. Hey, we got my man Phil in the house. What's going on? Comics Talk Weekly hanging out with us as well. So very cool, man. All right. So anybody watching right now, or if you're catching the replay, if you guys are not subbed up to Andy, I put all his information in the description below. Make sure you do so. We still got 22 people hanging with us here, and don't go anywhere, because we have a couple of really fun rapid fire questions. At least I call them rapid fire. My girlfriend says there's nothing rapid about them, but we will see how fast we can get them going, because I like to have my guests elaborate sometimes, or at least a little bit. But we'll see. So all right, Andy, you ready for this?
Yeah.
All right, so let's kick this off here. Number one, who's your number one favorite comic book character of all time? If you had to choose one.
Punisher. Right off the bat, Punisher. Just the deep ties that I have to that, and as much as I've read of that, Punisher actually molded portion of my life, and was probably part of the deciding factor to join the Marine Corps, because Frank Castle was a Marine.
Yeah. Oh, makes sense. I have to ask, did you like I already assumed that you watched it, but did you enjoy the Netflix series?
Bernthal should be the only Punisher from here on out forever and ever and ever.
Totally agree, man. Totally agree. All right, next up, if you could have one superpower, what would that superpower be?
Oh my Lord, I never think about that. I really seriously never think about that. Time travel. I'll go with time travel. That's probably an easy cop out, but I would go with time travel.
No, yeah, dude. Most people do a cop out with flight, and no offense to people that say flight because I do think that's really cool too. But we do get a lot of the answer of flight, so I think that's probably the first time I think time travel. Someone said time travel, so
It's not a heavily used superpower in comic books. Generally, it's more
right.
of circumstance or situational. But there are several characters out there that can, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly.
Well, you could be a promiscuous time traveler if you wanted to. So there you go. You would not be alone there then at that point. Alan, thank you so much, brother. Appreciate you hanging out here in the chat.
Yeah, chat's fire.
Uh, yeah, Dave, agreed. Bernthal is perfect as Punisher. Yep, absolutely. Oh, Michael says he met him too at a con a few years ago. Very down to earth. That's cool. It's nice to hear. Promiscuous time traveler says, well then, hit me up. There you go. Good stuff there. All right, so let's get on the next one. Andy, what's the last book that you read?
Oh no. I've been reading so many books. Nocterra #1.
Ooh,
Nocterra
okay.
#1.
Is that your first time into it? You're just getting into it?
And I didn't get to finish reading it because I got a little interrupted by the mini me. So my plan is to read all of Nocterra up to where they're at right now today.
Very nice.
After this show.
Cool.
Because I want to know what is going on with Nocterra.
Yeah. And especially with the announcements now, I know a lot of people are talking even more so about it. But it's been a great read. I'm excited for you. Very cool. What about who is if you had to choose one, this is tough. Who's your favorite comic book artist? We'll say alive. Keep it at that.
I'm gonna have to go with Fiona Staples off of Saga.
Oh yeah, okay, yep.
Only because the rest of the artists that I do like and enjoy that I would think I would pick, it would be that they're pretty accessible when it comes to conventions and CGC signings and other things going on.
Sure.
Fiona Staples is like ghost level when it comes to conventions and getting artwork done. Like you have to, I think there's a website and a broker that you can go to try to get some artwork for her, but it's like she's not super available. So because of that lack of availability, it just makes her artwork to me seem more desirable. And we still want to get an original Fiona Staples piece for the Comic Dojo down here one of these days.
Ooh, that would be dope. That'll be dope. Hope you get one. Very cool. Very cool. Can't go wrong with that pick.
Can't go wrong with Andrea Sorrento too. Like downright nerdy said. Yeah.
He's doing another project soon with Lemire.
Yep.
Right? Coming out soon. I forget what it's that Primordial? Is that what
yes, Primordial with the monkey going to space. I got that on my poll. I can't wait to read that.
Yes. Yep. Same. Very cool. All right, let's get into the next one here. If you could, all right, we'll talk about time travel. If you could go back in time and buy one comic book off the shelf at cover price that you could never resell, it literally has to go to the grave with you. What would that one comic book be and why?
ASM 129, because it would be part of the Punisher collection that I'm not going to let go of anyway. And if I bought it off the shelf, knowing me, it'd be an extremely high grade. I would have picked through it and found the best one I could. I would have read it only once and put it away. And something in the neighborhood of a 9.6 to a 9.8 of that book is $20,000-$30,000, something like that now. Like nuts.
Yep. Yeah, your copy would be a 9.9 for sure. At that point, at least. Love it. All right. Let's see. Let's go into is that my last favorite comic book based film or TV show?
Oh, that's gonna be tough. Like, because the comic book existed before and then they did a show comic book based. I don't know that I'm going to be able to come with something up right off my cuff because it seems like a lot of stuff I find out there. Okay. No, that's not comic book based either. This is where it's going to be tough.
Or are you saying because it's something that came out first before it became a comic?
Yeah, like if it's out, if you want comic book based, then truly it's the comic book came first and then the show came out.
Yeah, technically. We don't have to get that technical though. It could be just something that ties into comics. It could just be something that ties into comics. Yeah.
Okay, so this is just tie-ins. What I'm incredibly pining for and incredibly excited for, and it's modern and it's not even done yet, is The Last of Us.
Oh, okay.
So The Last of Us originated as a video game, but it also was done in a comic book form. And there's a 4-issue miniseries of the story of the main character that ties in with the video game.
Ah.
But they're bringing it to the big screen, and they literally just finished filming episode 1 of a 10-episode season.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
Comic Book Resources just posted, I think, yesterday about this.
Yeah.
And they just finished filming episode 1. You can see that some of the actors on their social media accounts are taking breaks elsewhere from where they're filming at. And this first season alone is going to be over $100 million, if I remember correctly.
Whoa.
They're beyond Game of Thrones territory on Game of Thrones' last season for just their opening volley.
Wow.
And for anybody that likes post-apocalyptic, the not study of, but like what Walking Dead did with the story of, we thought it was a zombie story, ended up being the story of humanity.
Yeah.
That Last of Us is really a story of humanity at the end of a post-apocalyptic situation, and the characters are incredibly well done. The writing is Neil Druckmann wrote the hell out of this story. It's fantastic. The video game, if you're into video games, yes. No, you can read the book first and then you can play the video game, or you can play the video game and read the book first. It doesn't matter. They're
Nice.
really well tied together. The video game experience was not life-changing, but the video game experience is the best cinematic storytelling experience I've ever had.
Wow.
Like when you get into the first video game's been redone for the PS4 Pro in high definition or HD at high dynamic range or something like that. The cinematics in there are very extremely well done. And then you get to the second video game in that series. The second video game in that series is absolutely mind-blowing. It tugs at your heart. It breaks your heart in two. First, you're cheering for one person, then you're cheering for another person. Then you realize that they put you in this position of duality to make you feel like a horrible person for cheering for one or the other. And it's just a heartbreaking, incredible story that has some twists. It has some plot stuff, and don't get into social media and search that stuff too much because it'll ruin the story for the game. That was one of the big things when the second game came out, is several people in social media spoiled it and ruined it for a ton of people. But The Last of Us, I think, is a sleeping giant. If they film this as well as I think they're going to, because they've got Neil Druckmann, they've kept him on for the script, right? Neil Druckmann wrote the whole story for the games and everything. Well, if the games were that damn good, the TV show is going to be that damn good. Now it's the production side and filming side of things. If they keep that up, if I remember correctly, the director that they hired was, I don't have the name off the top of my head, but at first they were hiring the person that did Chernobyl from HBO, and Chernobyl was fantastically done. Then the second person that they put into place is equally inspiring for this. So I'm really excited. And when they're dropping $100 million, as much money as what Game of Thrones did for their last season on the first season of the show, they're not playing around. And if you follow The Last of Us on any of the social media stuff, you'll see some of the filming locations where they pop up pictures, and it's absolutely stunning.
Oh, wow.
Pedro Pascal's playing Joel, one of the main characters, and we've seen some clips of what he looks like in character, and it's gonna be really good. The girl that played the young queen of a territory in Game of Thrones, and I forget her name, she's playing Ellie, and she's got the acting chops to be a firecracker of a character for that role. I think is going to be phenomenal. And then Gabriel Luna is playing Joel's brother Tommy, and I'm not sure how that's going to play out. But Dan Della Torre. Oh, Sith Lordy said Dan Della Torre. Okay. Oh no,
that's Dan in the chat.
Why I was thinking that was a producer. Sorry. I'm getting completely wrapped up in this. I think it's a sleeping giant. For people that haven't played video games or aren't into playing video games, I think they should very seriously consider buying a used PS4 Pro and playing. You can download them directly and just play them once. If that's the only video game you ever play, then you'll be good. The second game was a little tough to get through. It wasn't tough to get through. It depends on, was it tough for you to get through emotionally, or was that you didn't like how they did it? They made it so that the person playing the game was going to be uncomfortable with the situation or with the storyline and getting through it. Rivals Uncharted for best storytelling. I'm with Promiscuous. Yeah. And Uncharted is already going to be seeing a movie here pretty soon too. So that's when you ask about what comic book based story into a show is my favorite, hasn't even hit yet. But I think The Last of Us is a sleeping giant to the point where I'm speculating quite heavily on that book, looking for copies and buying stuff up. 9.8s of that book a year or more ago were several $100s. There's several $1,000s now for the asking prices. Actual sold, you can look up actual sold, but people want heavy money for that book now because of the news. The next dip that happens for that book, I'm going to be buying up a ton. Oh my Lord.
Sorry.
John, you went really low with that one.
That's great. It's great.
I just turned your rapid fire, your last like rapid fire question into a 10-minute answer, but I'm that pumped up and that amped about Bella Ramsey. Thank you, downright Bella Ramsey.
There you go.
Promiscuous. Yes, Promiscuous Time Traveler is right. If you can highlight that. The second game.
Oh.
The second game was difficult for Promiscuous because it was emotionally challenging. That Neil Druckmann delivered that purposefully. Like that's only the second video game I've ever played that put me into tears on several portions of the game. The one before that was Final Fantasy VII originally when I was a kid.
Oh, I love 7.
Yeah.
I don't see his other comment here. Dan was saying I'm not only still playing video games, but I was there when this whole thing began with Pong. It was a religious experience.
Yep.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not. I'm not familiar with it. I'm not familiar with the book. I'm not familiar with the game. I'm not a big gamer to begin with, but that's interesting. I'm curious to see when that comes out.
Do you have a PS4 Pro?
Me, no.
No. Okay. I would suggest looking up a used one maybe and putting $20 away. It's worth the experience. It really, truly is. And I think PS4 Pros should continue to get cheaper as the 5 becomes more available. Or
yeah.
I don't know what the support looks like for a PS4 Pro going forward, but you can still download the remastered edition of the first game right now, and then you can still play the second game on that. And the PS4 Pro does 4K at 60 frames per second with HDR, high dynamic range, and it's a big step up when it comes to watching that on a big screen TV.
I'm with Michael here. I have a PS2. I think I have a PS3 actually. I do have a PS3. That's the last time that I've gotten a console, but it's been quite some time. And even when I was playing, I was more of a Madden guy, more than anything else. But very cool. Sounds cool. So yeah, you see what I mean with the rapid fire. Like I try to explain it to her. It kind of just goes out the window. We like to call it rapid anyways, but
yeah,
this is rapid. It's still rapid compared to like 3 hours, or something. So that's what I go with. All right, so let's see. So Andy, I'm going to switch gears here just a little bit before we wrap up and ask you a couple non-comic book related questions. And the first one here, let's kick it off with sports. Are you a sports guy? And if you are, which I feel like you are based on your interview with Cannon, I feel like you had a lot of interesting sports stuff to say. But are you a sports guy? And if you are, what's your favorite sport? What's your favorite teams?
I'm a fair weather sports fan.
Okay, there you go.
And I'm not like a religious viewer of football or anything like that. I'll go to Detroit Tigers games. I love doing that with my wife. She grew up on that side of the state, so we've got family ties over there. Okay. Tigers games are a ton of fun. Unfortunately, we've never seen a winning Tigers game in person. Every game that we've ever been to, they've always lost. So we'll see if that gets a little bit better. We absolutely love going to our home team, our home city sports team, the baseball team here. We love watching those games they just don't charge very much money to get in there to see a really fun baseball game, to have some hot dogs. And I'm really looking forward to doing that with my son as he grows up.
Nice.
And same with the hockey team. Our local hockey team you can sit on the glass for like $15. That's a ton of fun. And those guys play real hard. Yep. At the end of the day, when it comes to major league sports, I follow the Tigers a little bit. I occasionally follow the Lions more so for water cooler talk at work, just to kind of be in that discussion, because man, the Lions are always going to be the Lions. And then major news titles and news events that I come across that I follow, but I'm nowhere near the sports fan that a lot of other people are. But baseball is probably what I follow most of.
Cool. I have to highlight this one because that's just great. That's great stuff.
All 9 of them, right?
Exactly. All right, let's switch it up here. What about music? Where do you stand with music? What's your favorite genre, and do you have a favorite artist or band?
I am all over the place.
Nice.
If you have the Whatnot app downloaded, tune in and get ready for my next auction on the 24th on Whatnot, because I will crank up everything from 90s gangster rap to you name it, to modern rock hits to right now. I love music all the way around. There's even some country stuff that I grew up with at my first job that I like. So it's all dependent on my mood.
Yeah.
Like I've spent the last couple of months digging into late 80s, early 90s rap on the West Coast or on the East Coast or whatever. That's been a lot of fun.
Nice.
Then you go into the segue of modern stuff right now. It's really dependent on my mood. I like kind of a lot of everything. Adele. I'll listen to Adele at 100% volume in the basement here.
Yep. Very cool. I'm the same way in terms of, just open to everything. I feel like there's not a bad genre. I feel like there's good music in every genre, always open to anything like that. So, and you named some really good artists there. The whole thing with Whatnot, I have to ask this real quick. Are you allowed to, because I know with Instagram, if you are streaming on Instagram or if you're live on Instagram and you have music playing, they will shut you down if it can pick up what the song is, because it's technically not legal for the music to be used in your personal stream. Have you had that issue on Whatnot, or are you able to just play and not get shut down, or do you have the music really low, or what's the deal with that?
So I crank the music as loud as humanly possible down here,
Really?
so that the people watching the Whatnot app can feel like they're here
Wow.
with me. Right.
And no problems. They don't shut you down.
No problems, because the stream is literally not recorded, not saved. It's not embedded anywhere. Currently right now, as it stands, the way that works is as long as it's not replayable,
I see.
then the owners of that material aren't losing out on the hits or the replays. How music makers make money now is all on replays, or the count of how many times the song gets listened to.
Sure.
Is how they earn money for that music now. Unlike traditional album or CD sales of 20 or 30 years ago. So when you're in the moment and that music plays and there's no way to replay it, there's no way to review that. I think that's where Instagram is slightly different. I think because if you do a live auction on there, I think there's some portion of it that can be replayed. I think you have
it's
save it to Reels or something like that. On the Whatnot app, once that stream is ended, it's done, it's over. There's no ghost imprint, there's no nothing saved, which makes it for a much more comfortable environment to just be yourself and to put books up and do whatever. Crank the.
That's cool.
Literally, the last Whatnot auction I was doing, I had the music so loud here, the phone mount was vibrating from the bass.
That's awesome.
So I had to turn it down.
Oh, dude, I'm gonna have to tune in then. I literally just created my account like 2 days ago, so I was not jumping on board until recently. So
everybody watching right now, if they're not, you can follow me on the Whatnot app at ComicManAndy, and there's a ton of great community members over there. Community's growing, and it's the same community that you see here on YouTube. They've dipped their toes in to try that out there, and I think a lot of people are making the best of all three worlds with eBay, Whatnot, and Instagram. They're finding ways to use all three of them for comic book collecting purposes, and it's a ton of fun. Whatnot is super convenient. Once you get your purchasing stuff loaded up and your address loaded up and you're confirmed to buy, you click, it's done. It'll get shipped immediately. There's no work.
Yeah, I like it. It seems very organized as well. I just want to say a quick hello to BLC in the house. Big Lion Cat, what is going on, brother? Thanks for stopping in. Very cool. Yeah, I'm definitely going to explore more of that app for sure. My wallet won't appreciate it, but we'll see. Unless I get on the other side. So I don't know. Too much work for me. All right, let's get into the next question here. Let's talk a little bit about, I asked you about your favorite comic book related film. What is your favorite non-comic book related film? What is like the number one like movie that just comes to mind that's just like you could have it on any time. You could probably quote most of it. What's your favorite there?
I can't quote a lot of it, but it lives in my head quite regularly. Is Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a classic. Love that film.
It's just I don't know why. Maybe it's because it was on cable TV so regularly all the time, every weekend for so long. But oh my God, Downright Nerdy says Mac and me. I'm so thankful for Downright Nerdy and Bored and Annoyed podcast and Pinky's Out podcast and Paul from Tales from the Flip Side, CBSI, those guys, because they do a lot of movie review stuff and have helped expanded my realm of movies. But I think to segue that into my favorite movie, that's one for at home, right? But my probably the biggest movie experience ever was Avengers Endgame in theater, 3D IMAX. Yeah. That's one that'll live with us for forever when we went and saw that. That was absolutely amazing.
Yep, the works. Anytime that movie's brought up, my girlfriend will say that I was literally the loudest one screaming in that theater during the big scenes.
Yep.
And I deny that because I'm like, I was not. She's like, you were literally the loudest person in that theater.
They caught lightning in a bottle, and they're gonna struggle to do that again for the next 20 years, I bet you.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was such an experience, though. I agree with you. That's gonna stay with me for a very long time as well. I still get choked up when you watch you ever watch like the replays on like Instagram or YouTube, of the audience. The audience is in the theaters and just hearing people chant, it's just awesome. Really cool stuff. All right. Next up here, if you could go on vacation anywhere in the world for 1 week, paid free, you and your family, don't have to worry about COVID or anything like that. You could just go anywhere that you have not already been to. What is one location that comes to mind for you?
Ireland.
Oh, okay. Why Ireland?
Ireland, because it's just something that we've never done a lot of traveling, and one of the first places that we want to go when we do travel is going to be Ireland. For me, a lot of the whiskey's going on over there.
Sure,
the history. There's a lot of history when it comes to whiskey and a lot of other great things over there. And then you're just a few short train rides away from other fantastic places in Europe over there too, and you could segue into a really, really massive. In a week, you can do a lot.
Yeah.
I like
it.
There's just so much there when it comes to the word escapes me. The Dark Ages, the history of the Dark Ages, when you can start getting into some of that stuff would be super cool too.
Yeah, that's certainly a place I would put on my list at some point, and then amongst others, Europe and so on and so forth, just all the just world traveling in general. But great choice. And especially, I mean, you'd probably need longer than a week there, but that's definitely a place if you're getting it for free. That's certainly worth it. Let's see. Any cool celebrity moments for you? Or do you have one big one that you can think of? Have you ever had experience of any cool or interesting celebrity moments?
Yeah. I'm not a big celebrity person. I don't get all bug-eyed when celebrities come out because it's not kind of really my thing as far as the signatures and all that other stuff go. Bernthal would be one that I would do, Brian Cavon. But we were at Motor City Comic Con in 2019. We saw Leslie Baker from The Office there. Oh, cool. The line's not very long. I'm like, that'd be pretty neat, just to get a picture with him because we just thought it'd be really neat. And based on the pricing and the availability in the line, we're sure. I was like, oh, we can do this. And then we're like, ding. Let's go to the concession stand and let's each get a pretzel. And let's bring pretzels and get pictures with Leslie Baker holding pretzels for like the pretzel thing from The Office.
Right.
By the time we got done with the concession stand and got over there, he went on break and was gone for like an hour plus. Like, man, no, this isn't going to work out. So that's kind of our celebrity story there.
Damn. So you never got to actually get that photo with the pretzels and everything.
Nope, but we're gonna try to do that soon. We're going to try to do that soon. Maybe if he shows up in the next Motor City Comic Con or at another one, we're going to try to do that.
I like the idea. Well, we got my man Rod in the house, just the Rican and his comics. What's going on, Rod? He was on the show a little while ago. Good to see you, Rod. Thanks for stopping in, man. BLC, you're asking all the good questions, man, and some are on my list. Don't jump ahead, man. Well, that one. He asked me about food. We're going to get to food. We will get to food. Let's see. Oh, Michael says he's a really nice guy. I met him and Kevin and Oscar too. They signed his Jim Halpert comic. Very cool. Very cool. Love The Office. All right. Let's see if you brought up video games before, so I'm going to ask you what is your favorite, if you have one, what comes to mind would be in your favorite video game of all time?
Last of Us, man. Seriously.
Yeah? Okay, sticking with that.
Award winning.
Wow.
I grew up. I remember walking through Blockbuster Video and they had the PlayStation displays, the first ones, the very first PlayStations, and Resident Evil was the game that they were using to get people to buy and rent these titles and all that other stuff. And I was like, that was fantastic. But by the time I could afford a PlayStation 1 and got one, it was Final Fantasy VII was the big title that fall. It was the first thing I ever paid for pre-ordered. And I remember my parents being vastly upset with me why I would spend money on something that isn't even out yet. Pre-ordering is not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. You shouldn't be doing that. You're just wasting your money. And I had to skip school that day. The game came out so I could pick it up from the mall. And I was living my best life at the time. I just had my driver's license, my first $100 car, skipping school, going to the mall to pick up this video game. But still, The Last of Us cinematically and storytelling wise is by far just blows me right out of the chair. The experience from that game and the second game alone and how they tie together with the downloadable content in the middle of that is absolutely the best storytelling experience I've ever had on a video game console.
Damn, man, I'm going to have to consider this then. The way you talk about it, man, it sounds really, really like a must.
It kind of is. I hate to put you down a rabbit hole, but I know you. I know what stories you like. I know the indie fan that you are, and I know that you would absolutely have put on the blinders. Don't let social media spoil anything for you. Dip into these games, and I feel like you're gonna be texting me, be like, "What the hell, bro?" I'm like, "Oh my god."
Oh man, all right. I'll keep you posted then. If I dive into that, I'll have to keep you posted. Time Traveler here says Uncharted for me. Last of Us is second place. Okay.
See, Woodard told me I need to get into Uncharted, and I have not yet, but I will at some point.
He also had this nice little comment here. When a bug hits the windshield while driving, bet he doesn't have the guts to do that again. Yeah, all right. You were talking about pretzels. I got hungry, and so that brought me to this question, and we'll close out with this question here. What is your, if you have Friday night, you and the wife, you get to choose anything you want for dinner, whether you're going out to eat, you're traveling somewhere, or you're cooking, you're staying in, or you're just ordering in, whatever angle it is that you want to go about it. What is your go-to meal for a Friday night?
Cuban sandwich, man. No matter where I'm at in the country, I will always, like, if there is a pub or a bar or some place that is the locals claim to have the best Cuban sandwich, that's what I'll hunt down and find out, because that combination of ham with pulled pork and cheese and mustard and pickles, and people do artisan breads, and people try to, sometimes they get too far off the scale and they get too bougie with it and it gets to be really weird. And then other times it's right down home, sandwich meat ham out of the deli counter with just the French's yellow mustard. And it's just, there's no Cuban sandwich is ever the same. And you find some grand slams and you always try to replicate that. And like just a Rican, it's the same experience, just with cheesesteak. But for me, it's those Cuban sandwiches.
I love it. I love it. And I always torture myself here with this question, because now I'm just like starving, and hearing that description, I'm just like, damn it. It says my wife gets mad at me because that's all I want to eat. Yeah. He talked very highly of cheesesteaks when he was on this show, Rod. Let's see. There was something else I wanted to highlight here. I saw Ben Compton hanging out with us. What's going on, Ben? Talking about DCU Online. I saw Dan mention Halo Reach. It's been a while since I played Halo, but definitely used to enjoy Halo. John with some more goodies. Yep. There's John. John, you.
he is taking the crown today.
Yes. Him and Dave. Him and Cajun. Let's see. All right. This is interesting. I'll throw this up here. BLC with a question that I had not prepared. So and we'll see how you dodge this question, Andy. Putting him on the spot. How much money have you spent on comics at one shot? I'm assuming just in one shot.
Most money spent on comics at one shot. So not one individual one, but a group. I still think I've got to go to one individual purchase. There's been some pretty crazy group purchases, but honestly, the Saga retailer incentive 9.8 was the biggest purchase in 2020, beginning of 2020. We had spent a year saving up for that book. And that one, I think, was $2,200.
Wow.
At the time, I think it was just a hair over, after taxes and fees and shipping and all that other garbage. I think it was just a bit over $2,000. And that book has pretty much doubled since then.
That's great.
That was a 500 print run on a book that hasn't even had any solid speculation, actual. It's so back and forth. It'll probably never be a show, and all the fans want it to be a show, and half the other fans are like, it's too good to ever be made a show. But it's got such a massive fan following, and that book is on the verge of becoming a ghost book.
Yeah,
we bought it as an anniversary gift to ourselves.
Nice.
Oh, so wow. We saved up for about a year to do that, and that was our probably big one-time purchase. And then there's been a couple of other little ones here and there, not little ones, but contenders. But that's still by far the biggest purchase. I thought my ASM 129 at Baltimore was forever going to be my biggest purchase in an 8.5 white pages, but ASM 129s now, that 8.5 in 2019 with white pages was 14 or $1,500.
Mm.
That's like a $3,000 or $4,000 book now.
Yeah.
And I thought that was forever going to be our biggest purchase. And every
Right.
time I turn around and say, we're never going to do this again, or, oh my God, this will never happen again, something happens and a book that's not part of our PC blows up. And it's like, you kind of end up flipping a couple of books here, a couple of books there to pay for the hobby. The hobby at some point, 10, 20 years in, begins to be a little bit more self-sustaining. You start to realize, oh, I can actually make some of these dream books happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why we're focusing on The Walking Dead #1. That Walking Dead #1, I don't think is going to come. I'm hoping that there's a area where it drops, but yeah, and I really want a sandwich now too.
Yeah, no, we got the chat all hungry. Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's one of your biggest books there, and the fact that you love it. I mean, the ties that it has to you, your family, that you were sharing earlier is just awesome. So, in the grand scheme of things, and also sounds like you mentioned budgeting. You're very cautious with how you go about using or spending. And you plan this out for a year. Seems like it was a very good move either way. I'm going to throw this one up here too, because I like this question, and downright is just asking for both of us any upcoming cons, hangouts, anything like that. So as we kind of wind down here, Andy, you want to share a little bit of just anything, what you have coming up, and then also, the cons, any cons that you plan on going to. I know you mentioned some before that you might be coming at the end of the year.
I am incredibly excited for this con season because I'll leave politics aside. The world is finding a way. We're getting back into conventions no matter what happens. We're fully vaccinated.
Yeah.
Their C2E2 is still happening. They've got they're going to be pretty strict about C2E2. We're going to C2E2. We've got 4 nights hotel booked, stayed there. Nice. I cannot wait for that. We're going to do the full experience there. Jimmy the Geek Aficionado is really excited. We're going to be hanging out there with them, and we're going to be looking for everybody else to hang out with, because the convention is the convention. I'm going there to be with the people. I'm going there to hang out with all of you guys. Like, we're going to spend that first day or two wandering around and looking for people at the convention, but like, we're not going to lock ourselves at the convention. We're going to go out to lunch with Jimmy and other people, or go out to dinner, and we're just going to have that fun. We've got that hotel is just like a block away there, and it's just going to be a blast. Motor City Comic Con, the same thing. We're going to be there for the entire time. Considering C2E2, but it's hard maybe right now. And I can definitely understand if people choose not to go to that because of what the situation is with COVID right now. And I wholeheartedly support those people that choose not to. I feel like where we're at in a time in our lives with being fully vaccinated and having masks, we're comfortable being in that environment, in that situation. We were at the last C2E2 when COVID was ramping through and pushing up in Chicago, and it still felt like a really good place to be back then too.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're finding ways to make conventions safe for everybody to go there. And I am extremely excited that this is going to happen, because we're going to do C2E2 in Chicago in December. We're doing Motor City Comic Con. Oh my God, next month in Detroit, potentially flying to Baltimore. That's not looking super great, but we're looking at checking that out. And I think there's going to be several mini conventions that we're going to hit. Uncle Skeff's Comic Knowledge introduced me to some Facebook groups and places where they regularly post where these little mini conventions happen, and they're within driving distance. Dragon Con, okay, this weekend, but decided against it. Man, yes, I can't wait to get back into the conventions. I just hope C2E2 still does the beer yard though.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I would love to go to C2E2. It's definitely on my list. By the way, I thought this was I was waiting for this to be a one-liner from Cajun, but it just wasn't. I don't know. I just started reading that. I'm like, oh, what's he got in this? Yeah. You got to let me know about Baltimore. If you're going to Baltimore, I'm definitely going to be down there for that. Really great stuff. Sounds like you have a ton of things along the way, and I agree with you, man. Can't wait to just as we continue to get to this point in the world, and hopefully sooner rather than later, that we'll be able to do more hangouts like this. I have to say too, what you mentioned before, when I went to Terrificon, which was last month over in Connecticut, that was my kind of first big con back since the pandemic, and being able to see as many people as I did exactly what you did, where I literally the main days that I was there, I just spent talking to people, just catching up with people, random people stopping me, walking by, like people I'm putting faces to names to that I know from Instagram and YouTube. It's like that was the best experience. Like, I mean, I barely did any digging barely. Like the final day, I did a little bit of digging, but which was probably best for my wallet, especially because the casino it was at a casino, and the casino was not nice to us. So it probably worked out that I didn't do as much digging as I initially planned to. But I just literally talked to people the entire time, so it was a lot of fun. Cool. BLC says he's going to be in Baltimore as well. John. Classic stuff there. You guys are killing me here.
Yeah. We went out to dinner last night, and the waiter came up to me and said, "Sir, would you like to box for your leftovers? Like a box for your leftovers?" And I'm like, "No, I'll take a bag. I want to fight for my leftovers, you know." I butchered that one.
It's all right.
I was trying to remember
that one. I was trying to go.
Killing me here. I'm way off my game now. John's so good right now today that I'm just shook up.
Well, you like that one I sent you, right? When I sent you Shadecraft and some of those books. Do you remember it? The
two moons and the Shade. I've got to look that up again. But yeah, those.
No, do you remember the one-liner that I wrote in there?
No, I don't remember. I've got the card sitting right over here. Or was that on the backer board?
I think it was on the board. What do you call a retired miner? Doug.
Yes. Doug. Doug. Yes.
That's great. Did you get to read that yet? Shadecraft?
Shadecraft was good. I liked it, but I didn't keep it on my pull list after reading that. That was the Akira homage cover that you sent was dope. That one's got to go to CGC. I absolutely am in love with those Akira homage covers, and I don't collect them, and I want to, but there's just too much going on.
Nice.
Two Moons is one that I definitely regret not picking up from the very get-go, and I want to dig further into that yet.
I think the trade just came out like last month or whatever for the first trade, so could get it that way.
We didn't even talk about Descender at all, and Descender was probably one of the top 5 reads.
I know.
Too.
I know. Yeah. That's why I was holding up my Descender, my hardcovers. I meant to grab my 9.8 that I had. That was my little investment to this. That book is still cheap right now. The first issue of Descender.
You got your copy for like $40, and ever since then I've been looking online, and
because you almost sniped that one. You let it go.
people are pushing that book up to $80 or $90 now. I was like, dang it, I missed my chance for
Are they
40? Yeah, it's about $100 9.8 now.
Man, that's annoying. I know John got his, I think, for about $50 too.
Yeah.
But that's a great dude. Oh, and not to go off track here, but yeah, did you finish Ascender? Do not spoil anything.
No, I was waiting to do it with you guys.
Oh, okay, cool. Because I know that last book came out. I think right. I think the finale came out last week or week and a half ago. Yep. So I was curious. I was like, man, I bet Andy's jumping into that right now.
Yeah, I haven't finished it yet. I was waiting to finish that final book of Ascender with you guys.
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to that. We'll talk with JP soon. And if you guys have not read Descender or Ascender, you certainly should. And go back on JP's channel, JP Collects, because we had a breakdown. Me, Andy, John, JP. It was a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun doing those shows over on JP's channel. But dude, Andy, this has been awesome. This is the show. I can't thank you enough for taking time to hang out with me here today. Before I do the whole spiel and getting out of here, I do want to let the people know, where can they find you? What shows do you have coming up? I know you have a lot of different content coming up, but give us some of the big things that are coming up on your list, and any shout outs that you want to drop.
Man, you guys can follow me on the YouTube channel at ComicManAndy. Be ready for the 18th of September. The Slabaganza giveaway is going on. So if you have not subscribed, and if you have not entered the Slabaganza giveaway, there's 8 major slab packages that are being put together. We're going to give those away live on the 18th. Be sure to follow those instructions. There's 3 ways to enter to get 3 entries, one of which means following me on the Whatnot app. All the Whatnot followers get entered on that as well. That's coming up. Really excited for that. The 24th of next month will be the next Whatnot auction. I'm excited for that as well. So follow me on the Whatnot app for that. That's been a blast. And it's right now, it's just titled Party Down in the Dojo or something like that. Because that's going to be a ton of fun. You guys can follow me on Instagram, again, at ComicManAndy. All the social media stuff is all going to be ComicManAndy. And what I'm really excited about with CGC and the way things have been going with turn times, our last 2 CGC submissions that we are anticipating taking 4 to 6 months, we're both back in under a month.
Oh, wow.
So those unboxings have hit. Those are up on the channel. We did the long form content like this show. We did live unboxings, and we clipped them down to micro content to rewatch for the CGC stuff. And that's been a lot of fun. And because of the way things have been going and the planning that's been going, every month 10 books go out to CGC. So I'm hoping that every month we'll have a CGC related blind unboxing. We're not looking at any of the grades.
Nice.
Blind unboxings are very addicting and very fun. Check out our last one. Actually just posted that up yesterday. I think the mini content of that.
Nice.
And so that's going to be a blast. So Mail Call Monday, every Monday live, 9 p.m. is what we're going with. So tune into that. And just before that, I'll be on Vincent McLean's The Comic Machine Jibber Jabber on every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, the 9 p.m. our channel. Tuesday, which has been fun. We talked about producing live streaming and growing and learning and being self-taught with live streaming and edited content. Every Tuesday night on Simpleman's Comics channel, I produce the live stream for that, the Comics News Weekly. So that's been a blast producing that show for Brian every week. So tune into that. Wednesday is New Comic Book Day here in the Comic Dojo. We go over what I should only be buying this, and it ends up always being this, and trying to read everything. That's a ton of fun. And I'm trying to get into a fashion of every Thursday and Friday I'm posting some sort of like 5 or 10 minute micro content video.
Nice.
Just so that, you know, if there's a lot of people out there that are kind of turned off by an hour-long show, so I want to deliver like that 10 or 15 minute content so that they can still see the CGC unboxing.
Sure.
And then like tomorrow, I want to do a Sunday hangout again. It's been a while since I've been able to do those, and that's a 2 to 4 hour just ramble, like bagging and boarding books or organizing things and just hanging out.
Those are fun. I've seen those. Yeah, that's a lot of fun when you do those. Very cool, man. It sounds like a busy schedule, and yet I know you're having a blast doing everything.
That's what's interesting when you learn and you grow and you're self-teaching. You're teaching yourself these things. What is a large task at the beginning, all of a sudden things start to streamline and get a little bit easier. You're able to do more on a smaller or a shorter time frame. Yeah.
Start to strategize a little bit more as well. Agreed for sure. I saw something Wong just hang out. Where do you go here? I just lost his comment here. There he is. He goes something Wong saying, am I early? A little early. We also got my man Tyler in the house. What's going on, Ty? Darth Timo swinging by real quick. Appreciate you, brother. John with some more fire. Yeah. Michael, I appreciate the kind words. Thanks for hanging out. Yes, happy Labor Day to everybody. Or anyone watching live, or if you're catching this replay, hope you had a great weekend. Yeah, we're just gonna keep this cranking. So next week, next Saturday, same time, Comic Collector Origins. I'm gonna be talking to Biggie from NY Warriors. So really excited for that. He just moved not too far from me. He's like half hour from me in Jersey here. So we'll have to hit up Zap Comics together at some point. But other than that, on my channel, just same stuff. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm putting out pre-recorded top 10 new comic book day lists on Thursdays, 12:30 Eastern. And then Tuesdays are kind of random, just putting out stuff as I unbox things or doing some sort of hangout. I will be doing a 900 subscriber giveaway, so keep an eye out for that. I'll be putting something out there soon. And Andy, congrats again on the 1K. I saw you crossed it not too long ago. So really cool to see your channel continue to grow the way it has been. If you guys aren't following Andy, I put all his information in the description. Check out all the shows he just talked about. And Andy, dude, I can't thank you enough, man, for being here, for taking time to share these awesome and deep stories. Really appreciated a lot of the things that you shared here today. Now we know a little bit more about you than what we did before in terms of your origin. And just in general, man, you've been a great person to the comic book community, a great friend. Anything you ever need from me, you can reach out to me. But again, thank you so much for taking the time to be with me here today on the show. I truly do appreciate you, man.
Yep. Thank you, man. And you are not far from 1K yourself. That should be really close.
Getting there, man. Getting there. Slowly but surely. I won't call you Shirley again. Sorry. All right, guys. We are going to wrap this up. Until next time, we will see you. But everybody have a great weekend. Be safe. Happy Labor Day. And we'll talk